being filmed from the perspective of how a woman came up with the idea of men focusing on their mental health, male spaces, and by deliverers who are predominantly men. So that's the key thing. It's more so about men influencing their own space and their own narrative. And also sometimes if you're talking about improving your diet to help manage the menopause, and if someone eats a cultural diet, you need to talk about their cultural diet. Don't talk about foods that they will never eat or never enjoy, because it's not part of their cultural palate.
Today's guest is my dear friend Anita Powell, a community engagement advocate based in Bedford. Her career has included working on and off in voluntary and community sector. She has a natural internal instinct working with and around social issues and justice. Anita has worked with women, men, young people, including mental health, ex-offenders, long-term unemployed, menopause, and refugees. Presenter of the podcast called Black Menopause and Beyond. Anita is a mother of an autistic child. She was a child carer for a parent with a disability and is dyslexic too. Welcome, Anita.
Hello.
So what is one of the most courageous things you've done? You've done lots of things in your life.
I actually don't know. I just do stuff.
I know that feeling.
I don't necessarily, I think you should just try things at least once. And I do have an internal button that says that's dangerous, run. I mean,
Good.
So I do have that. But I think overall it's just about, I think you should be confident enough to try things at least once, and don't let other people's perceptions influence whether you're going to do something. Sometimes you just need to do it.
You're dyslexic as well, and you must now know they've officially put it as dyslexic thinking is a gift. So did that ever challenge you in your upbringing for school and things like that?
I think it did, but I didn't know. I only realised I was dyslexic when I went to university. That's when I worked at, because that's when people clearly said, I think there isn't something isn't right here. You know, the conversations I'm having with you, your comprehension of the situation, and then you submit something and it's clearly not, it's not, you know. So for me, when I was at school, I'm not aware how it disadvantaged me, because I wasn't aware I had it, but I knew there's certain things I didn't do like other people did, but no one actually pointed it out to me. But that's also a very common thing when you're a child carer. When you're caring for other people, sometimes you're not necessarily cared for to identify things that happen to you. So that's one of the issues that child carers often miss out on parenting, because they're caring.
Yes, I can imagine that. And that's wonderful you cared for your parent. As we view it as a gift, dyslexic thinking is a skill and now seen as a gift. You can put it on your LinkedIn profile. There's another way of going around it. What would you say is your gift if you had to say you had a gift with being dyslexic?
I presume it's connected to my dyslexia. My brain's gone blank. It's definitely not my memory.
Bless.
Quite intuitive.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so I'm quite intuitive. So, and I'm very much, I do process information. I process my environment. I process facts and all that. And I combine it together with my intuition. So it's not just, you know, abracadabra. I feel that we should take a left and take a right. I think I do take things in, as well as my gut and my understanding of the world. And it's made me highly intuitive, I believe, because I somehow have the ability to see opportunities that other people don't. So therefore, and I've been told this, and sometimes when we're in scenarios and people say, oh, I don't know what to do next. And I say, oh, let's do this. So I would definitely say that even though writing stuff is definitely a disadvantage to me, I can't fully express myself articulate myself in writing, I think being intuitive and being confident enough to express myself are definitely my superpowers.
Oh, wow. That's excellent. So you're a community engagement advocate. And what work have you been doing in the community lately? I know you've been on radio, television for your work with Menopause, but we'll go on to that in a moment. So what else have you been doing? I know you believe in your interest work in social issues and injustice. Tell me more about that work.
I think everything I do is kind of all connected, really. I mean, the work I do for Samson's Academy charity, which is my employer, where I'm a community engagement, oh God, so long, isn't it? I mean, community engagement advocate. Yeah. So we do projects. Currently, we're working on a mental health project, which was originally the core foundation of the project was my idea. Okay. So it was around men's mental health, or is around men's mental health, and the needs of communicating to men through male narratives. So even though it came from me, I noticed quite a few years ago that men sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they need their male mental health narrative delivered to them by nurturing men, not women. And women sometimes dominate the male space with regards to mental health. And I felt sometimes that actually men actually just need men. So working at Samson's Academy, we've created a series of projects around men, male spaces, and men just having male conversation, but it's nurturing. It's not about misogyny and sexism. It's not about control and dominance. It's about men talking about what they need, and to men as well. So it's for men by men. I'm out of it because I help out, but it's not, I don't control the narrative. It was just originally my idea.
Oh, that's excellent, because it's definitely needed. Yeah, I had all male guests on my podcast, and they're all talking about masculinity, what makes us men. And they all at some stage in their interview said, yeah, we're not ashamed, we've cried. It's been real men, mental health and the issues that men do see, and they're talking about it. So that's excellent. That's really needed right now.
Definitely.
Exciting times. Tell me about your journey on running your podcast called Black Menopause and Beyond.
Well, it's I mean, I've been doing menopause stuff for quite a few years now. I think the idea popped into my head, or I understood about it in 2018. I started an online group 2019. I started doing face-to-face meetups in 2019. I also did 2 menopause conferences, one in 2019, one 2020. Then lovely COVID came along.
Yes.
And then I got COVID straight away. Literally, I think our first lockdown, I think I had symptoms for COVID the day before. And then I got long COVID, which I had for about a year and a half. Yeah, so I didn't really do much action over that time period. However, I did do stuff online. I worked with the National Health Service Recovery College with regards to menopause and stuff online.
Fantastic.
And I did like there. Now everything is opening up, or has opened up. I've been more proactive. So one of the things that I was doing, I was lucky enough to be communicating with the production team for Davina McCall's show.
Yes, I saw.
You saw, yeah, Sex, Mind and Menopause.
Yes.
So my communication with them was actually about the conversation of diverseness in the menopause space. I've been in the menopause space now, as I said, for quite a few years, and it lacks diverseness. It doesn't include diverse faces. It doesn't include diverse conversations. The reason why diverseness is kind of important is because sometimes when you talk about health, you have to tailor it to the audience. Yeah. So you either have to consider, especially with something like menopause, their cultural taboos. So some communities are more comfortable talking about it than others.
Yes.
Sometimes food, exercise can influence menopause. So if you live in a community where, you know, wearing tight clothes and going to the gym is not encouraged for women, then that will impact how you engage in getting fit. And also sometimes if you're talking about improving your diet to help manage the menopause, and if someone eats a cultural diet, you need to talk about their cultural diet. Don't talk about foods that they will never eat or never enjoy, because it's not part of their cultural palate. Another issue that I was really concerned about is that over the past few years, menopause has been big business for private healthcare, massive for private healthcare. So the private healthcare space has grown dramatically around the conversation of menopause. And I think everyone's noticed, they switch on the TV and you can get shampoo, and it's the same shampoo you could buy 5 years ago, but now they use the word menopause and menopause this and menopause that and menopause this. The only place where menopause has not blown up is the National Health Service.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the only place. They're really reluctant to fully embrace the conversation of menopause, partly because it's quite expensive, because hardly anyone has been trained by the National Health Service to support women. It's expensive not because necessarily about the HRT, it's because most doctors are not trained in menopause, nurses aren't trained, frontline staff in any environment. So like, I'm a community support worker. Yeah. I should know about the menopause because I'm working with a mature woman whose menopause symptoms are having an impact on the quality of their life. Yeah. If I don't understand what that is, I can't say go to your GP, you know.
Definitely.
Or if they go to their GP and their GP isn't helpful, if I understand about the menopause, I can say, well, you need to mention the word menopause to your GP. Yeah, because if you're all hot and sweaty, or this or that, or you know, your bones are achy or whatever, it could be that there's an issue around your estrogen and progesterone, and it could be that actually you might need HRT.
Yes.
And if you get HRT, it could actually correct some of the side effects that you're experiencing, and then you are happier, you're in less pain, less discomfort, you sleep better because you're not hot and sweaty at night. You're more likely to stay in your job, because a lot of women, if they suffer menopause symptoms like sweating and stuff like that, some women just leave their jobs, or talk about, you know, women stuff, sometimes their monthlies become extremely heavy or unexpected, and some women, especially in male spaces, could be that they can't have that conversation about that area, and they might decide to just leave their job. So that's why it's important that the National Health Service embrace it, not just rely on private sector, because not everyone can afford the private sector.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And the menopause will affect all women. So we're 51% of the population.
Yeah.
So it's something that needs to really be embraced by the National Health Service, so that all because you can't afford to go private, it shouldn't mean that you suffer while people who can go private, they're all around skipping and living their best life.
Yeah, because there's a imbalance of your hormones, and you need that intervention sometimes.
Even if you choose not to take medication, at least you should understand it.
Yeah, to eat the right foods that will support the immune system and your... Yes, definitely.
And little things can sometimes help some women, just taking vitamin D tablets.
Yes. Yeah,
you know, little things like that can have a positive impact on some women's menopause. Apparently, I'm not a health expert, I'm an activist, but apparently women need to do more weight-bearing exercise. They need to do weight training to reduce the chance of getting osteoporosis. Women are more prone to get diabetes once the protector, estrogen and progesterone, have gone. They protect certain things. So you're more likely to become diabetic, you're more likely to develop heart issues, because the hormones that have depleted actually protect parts of you. So it's just being kind of conscious and aware. You're more likely to get dementia because the hormones that have gone are protectors.
That's excellent. That's great. Now, you've done loads of things in your career, so this might be a tricky one. What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
I would say it's really important to listen. I would say for me, it's also important to step outside your box, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because sometimes, for me personally, I've tried loads of things, I've done different things, I've met different people, and I feel it's educated me because I'm willing to go into areas that some people will not, because they're got their ears closed and they don't do anything which is not new. That's what I would say.
You did run a radio station too, and now you're doing your podcast. Any tips on someone wanting to start a career in podcasting or in their radio show?
Tips. I mean, the thing is that the growth area in between radio and podcasting is podcasting. Radio is on decline. However, radio is really good PR wise. So I think if someone's got time, I would recommend they do both, do a podcast and do a radio show, because you do develop loads of skills and you learn from a community. Whereas podcasting is very much isolated and you work by yourself a lot. So I think there are benefits, but I see radio as a stepping stone into podcasting for 2022. Yeah, I think I will encourage people to try community radio, because that's the area I worked in, not commercial, community, because you do learn loads of things. You do have access to a community, like a town. I used to part of a community radio station, so that automatically gave me access to interview virtually anyone in Bedford, the town I'm from, because it was a Bedford community radio station. Yes. Podcasting, you don't have a geographical general location, so it's more topical, and sometimes that can be harder to get interviewees. Sometimes it's, unless you're really good at PR marketing, it's sometimes hard to get your listeners to even find you. Whereas radio, it's you literally, and if it's on FM or DAB, you just switch on a button and you press a dial, and a radio station comes out and you hear it, and that's it. Whereas podcasting, you're in a sea of millions of podcasts, and you have to rely on tags and PR and all this stuff, as you know, Anita. Yeah, you can't just sit and do a podcast, advertise, put it on your social media and expect 10,000 listeners. If you can, you're lucky.
Good luck.
But generally, which I'm a bit slack at, to be honest with you, generally you should spend just as much time as promoting as actually recording, editing and producing. It should be equal. Yeah, and I'm saying this, and I'm going to hit myself on the back of my hand because I don't do that.
Have many roles. One that you are more passionate about or not?
To some people, it sounds really boring. The thing that I'm the most passionate about is being a mum to my two kids. I'll be honest with you. I'm
absolutely
a mum to my little Anitas, even though they don't like to be called that. For me, it's the most fulfilling job I've ever had, to be honest with you. And it's very varied, and it changes over the years because they grow and eat stuff. And
absolutely.
I know, it's like, yeah. So for me, that's the most fulfilling job. With regards to other work, I like variety, and I'm a problem solver. So I'm not necessarily a people person, even though I'm a community worker, but I'm a person who's good at problem solving for people, if that makes sense. So some people are really good people type person. So they're in a room, they're charismatic. By the end of the evening, they walk in by themselves. By the end of the evening, they've got like 30 new friends, loads of telephone numbers, and they go out for dinner with every single one. Yeah, that's a real proper people person type thing. Very charismatic, very engaging. And they're the type of person that has a wedding and like 4,000 people turn up, all with presents, not just to eat food.
Good point.
Whereas I'm not that type of person. However, because I can talk, as you may gather, but I can also listen, and I'm also a problem solver. So in relation to my community work, I'm good at solving people's problems and a bit of being a people person.
Excellent. So what's next for you now? Because I know you're doing some fabulous work on television, radio.
Last week? I'm losing track of time. I was really privileged, really, because I didn't actually appear in the Davina McCall's Menopause show because she was due to come to Bedford and organised her to come to Bedford to do some of her filming for her second Menopause show. So that was booked and everything. Unfortunately, something happened in her personal life, which meant she had to stop filming for a few weeks, and the schedule was so tight that most of the filming could not be rescheduled. So she didn't come to my town. However, as part of the promotion and PR and stuff like that, the producer of the show was on BBC Breakfast about a week ago, and she wanted them to interview me and her, which I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
So that was really quite nice. I've never been in there before, so that was quite interesting. Going to a BBC Breakfast studio to be interviewed, and it was all the way in Manchester, so it's quite a long trek, but it was interesting. It was an adventure, and they paid for a taxi, so I'm not even going to complain. So a taxi for 3 hours, that's how long it was, so that was quite interesting. Tomorrow, part of my job for Samson's Academy charity, we are being filmed as part of a documentary which will be about mental health project I told you about, which was originally my idea, but it's kind of evolved because it's mental health and suicide in relation to men, because a lot of men have taken their lives over COVID, and the stats are increasing for men, which is really sad. We have a project about creating awareness and trying to normalise the conversation around men talking to other men about their mental health. That's what we want to do. And the BBC are coming to do a documentary where they will be interviewing Samson's Academy about this project. They'll also be interviewing Samson's Academy about all the stuff that we do. And they'll also be interviewing a family who, unfortunately, well-known family in Bedford, was unfortunately about 6 months ago, a male member took their life. They're also quite well-known in Bedford. So they're going to interview the whole family about that as well. I'm going to film tomorrow on that, and I'm being filmed from the perspective of where the idea came from, or the original idea came from, because I think they find it quite interesting that a woman in a quite a masculine space, because Samson's Academy is a boxing gym, but it also does community projects. So most of the people there are men. So how a woman came up with the idea of men focusing on their mental health, male spaces, and by deliverers who are predominantly men. So that's the key thing. It's more so about men influencing their own space and their own narrative. So that's why I'm being interviewed.
Really fantastic work you're doing. So where can the listeners find you online? What is your podcast? I mean, I know I mentioned it.
The best place I tell people is just Twitter, really. I mean, you can find me Instagram, but Instagram, we just see pictures of me walking around in the garden, taking pictures of flowers. And look, I cooked this today. So if you want to see Anita at her most exciting, then you can go to Instagram, which is I am Anita Powell, quite simple. Or you can go to Twitter, which is I am Anita Powell. Again, that's my handle. And I do more stuff around the topics that I'm passionate about with regards to menopause and charity stuff and community work. So that's where I am on Twitter.
Thank you very much for sharing your courageous journey with us today, Anita Powell.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My last question to you is, what is your definition of courage?
My definition of courage is just trying something you wouldn't normally try. Yeah, that's as simple as that. It could be just trying a new food. Some people are, I can't eat that. Try it. I'm not saying you should go out eating snails and stuff, but try something different.